I apologize. Today is going to be long. I can already tell you that in advance with the amount that I've typed up. So I'm going to get started. Spanish law enforcement yesterday executed a Spanish court order freezing the yacht, the Tango. It's a 255-foot luxury yacht owned by sanctioned Russian oligarch Viktor Vekselberg. Spanish authorities acted pursuant to a request from the United States Department of Justice for assistance following the issuance of a seizure warrant filed in U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia, which alleged that the Tango was subject to forfeiture based on violation of U.S. bank fraud, money laundering, and sanction statutes. Separately, seizure warrants obtained in the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia targeted approximately $625,000 associated with sanctioned parties held at 9 U.S. financial institutions. Those seizures are based on sanctions violations by several Russian specially designated nationals. According to documents filed in this case, the United States investigation alleges that Vekselberg bought the Tango in 2011 and has owned it continuously since that time. It further alleges that Vekselberg used shell companies to obfuscate his interest in the Tango to avoid bank oversight into U.S. dollar transactions related thereto. Additionally, Vekselberg was sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury Department on April 6 of 2018. The warrant alleges that Vekselberg and those working on his behalf continued to make U.S. dollar payments through U.S. banks for the support and maintenance of the Tango and its owners, including a payment for a December 2020 stay at a luxury water villa resort in the Maldives, and mooring fees for the yacht. So it's a lot of fun language here. Let me explain what's happening. So these individuals were sanctioned because they moored and paid for the service and the mooring fees in US dollars. They committed a crime, bank fraud, essentially. So if this was just a you and me, and we went overseas, we paid for something in American dollars or euros, but we were sanctioned individuals, that's a crime because we're sanctioned. Create the crime so you can create the criminal. I want you to listen really carefully to this language. I'm super, super angry about this, by the way, so I'm trying really hard to maintain my composure. Today marks our task force first seizure of an asset belonging to a sanctioned individual with close ties to the Russian regime. It will not be the last, said Attorney General Merrick Garland. Together with our international partners, we will do everything possible to hold account any individual whose criminal acts enable the Russian government to continue its unjust war. Today's actions make clear that corrupt Russian oligarchs cannot evade sanctions to live a life of luxury as innocent Ukrainians are suffering. Today, the Department of Justice delivers on our commitment to hold accountable those whose criminal activity strengthens the Russian government as it continues to wage its unjust war in Ukraine. That commitment is one we are not finished honoring. Today, we announce another example of the FBI using our worldwide presence and partnerships, as well as our expertise and experience to track and seize alleged illicit money and assets to counter threats to our safety and national security, said FBI Director Christopher Wray. The FBI, by the way, traveled to Spain to seize this asset. Keep that in mind too. We will continue to use every lawful tool to go after designated Russian oligarchs' assets, however and wherever we find them. The seizure was coordinated through the Justice Department's Task Force Klepto Capture. Remember, I told you guys about this. An interagency law enforcement task force dedicated to enforcing these sweeping sanctions, export restrictions, and economic countermeasures that the U.S. has imposed, along with its allies and partners. In response to Russia's unprovoked military invasion of Ukraine. Announced by the Attorney General on March 2nd and run out of the Office of the Deputy Attorney General, the task force will leverage all the department's tools and authorities against efforts to evade or undermine the economic sanctions taken by the U.S. in response to the Russian military aggression. Today's seizure of Viktor Vekselberg's yacht, the Tango, in Spain is the result of an unprecedented, multinational effort to enforce U.S. sanctions targeting those elites who have enabled Russia's unprovoked and illegal invasion of Ukraine. For those who have tied their fortunes to a brutal and lawless regime, today's actions is a message for those nations dedicated to the rule of law are equally dedicated to separating the oligarchs from their tainted luxuries. This seizure is only the beginning of the task force work in the global effort to punish those who have and continue to support tyranny for financial gain. Well, let's talk about this for just a minute before I go to the next subject. The United States has committed atrocities all over the world. We have gone into countries and completely massacred them. Guess who funded that? You and me. So if other countries decide, you know what, we're going to sanction the citizens of the United States. What's to stop them from seizing our assets? That's personal, private property. I understand that Russian oligarchs are not good people. I understand that they're not kind individuals. I understand that they acquire their funds by less than noble means. Welcome to U.S. politicians. They acquire their funds by less than noble means. And there are a number of those individuals who are currently sanctioned by Russia and China. So, what's to stop Russia from sending the FSB or KGB or whatever it's called from going and seizing all of these individuals' assets? Nothing. If you can police the world, you're using U.S. taxpayer dollars to send the FBI on witch hunts for private property, regardless of the individual. It's their property. I have a huge problem with this. So then, what's to stop our own government, same individuals who are gallivanting around the world seizing property? What's to stop them from saying, you know what, that farm is looking mighty nice, and we're not doing a very good job of managing things. We're going to seize your personal property. We think you're a domestic extremist. We're seizing your home. We're seizing your vehicle. What's to stop them? This is not right. I have a huge problem with this. It's not like they docked in the United States and did this. They did it in the Maldives. But because they transacted in US dollars, that's a huge crime. The Maldives accepted it. So I don't know. I have a huge problem with this and the larger implications. Do I care that some rich dude who's going to pay a fine to get his ship back is upset? No, but it's the principle and the large implications of what's happening. I'm sorry. Okay. Secure Act 2.0 passes the House, signaling a massive retirement savings and investment policy shift. On March 29th, the House of Representatives voted 414 to 5. It's pretty close to unanimous in favor of the, quote, Securing a Strong Retirement Act of 2022. If passed by the Senate and then signed into law by Biden, the act could represent a massive economic policy shift regarding retirement savings and investment. It also requires 401k and 403b plans to automatically enroll participants when they become eligible, though employees may opt out of this coverage. The automatic enrollment starts at a minimum of 3% of your salary, but no more than 10%, followed by a 1% increase each year until it reaches said 10%. There is an exception to this requirement pertaining to small businesses with 10 or fewer employees, new businesses, those less than 3 years old, church plans, and you guessed it, governmental plans. The Secure Act 2.0 also changes policies on catch-up limits concerning retirement plans and indexes IRA catch-up limits to inflation beginning in 2023. student loan repayments, and employer matching of such retirement contributions, small employer pension plan startup credits, and collective investment trusts, or CITs. Further, the legislation opens up the opportunity for exchange traded funds, or ETFs, in variable annuities. Talking about the bill in his update on the March-April work period letter on the 25th, House Majority Leader Steny Hoyer proclaimed, by expanding automatic enrollment in employer-provided retirement plans, simplifying rules for small businesses, and helping those near retirement save more for longer, this legislation will help increase Americans' access to retirement funds and help families save for the future. So they're forcing you to contribute to a plan that they will not allow you to deduct from if for some reason in your currents. Now they'll allow you to opt out of it, but they're forcing you to participate in it, automatically signing you up for it. And this coming on talks of younger people should not have access to social security. I love the government, man. They're so looking out for you. Jen Psaki says she's complying with ethics guidelines as reporters question her on a move to MSNBC. She's in advanced talks to leave the Biden administration and join MSNBC. Psaki is expected to depart the White House later this spring, perhaps as early as next month. With her deal, while her deal is not finalized, it is expected she will host a program for their streaming hub on Peacock and will appear across MSNBC programming as an analyst. She said, I have nothing to confirm about my length of public service or my planned service. Psaki said when asked about the report, I'm very happy to be standing here today. My focus every day continues to be speaking on behalf of the president, she added. At whatever time I leave the White House, I can promise you the first thing I'm going to do is sleep and spend time with my 3 and 6-year-olds. Not only is this woman married, but somebody procreated with her. However, she was questioned in multiple follow-ups about the ethics of briefing reporters while also talking to a news outlet for a paid role. She said, I have always gone over and above the stringent legal requirements of the Biden administration, and I take that seriously. She's taken steps to recuse herself from decisions as appropriate. Like politicians to lobbyists, press secretary to media pipelines have a long history. The most recent example would be 2 of Trump's former press secretaries, Kayleigh McEnany and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, who have served as Fox News contributors, and Sean Spicer hosts a show for Newsmax. Obama's former press secretary, Robert Gibbs, worked for MSNBC and NBC News as a contributor, and 2 of Bush's former press secretaries, Tony Snow and Dana Perino, would go on to host shows for Fox News. Can't imagine why the media seems to have a political agenda. The United States tells India there will be consequences for dodging Russian sanctions. Dileep Singh, the U.S. Deputy National Security Advisor, warned India on Thursday. I had more yesterday, so some of this is trickling over. Ahead of Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov's meeting in the Asian country. There will be consequences if India tries to evade Western sanctions on Moscow imposed over the Ukraine war. Lavrov arrived in India on Thursday evening after concluding a 2-day visit to China. India, one of Russia's main Cold War partners, is working with Moscow on a payment solution, like I mentioned on the show before, to work around Western sanctions. Refiners in India have been purchasing Russian oil through spot tenders since the war began on February 24th, taking advantage of cheap discounts while others pull out. India has purchased at least 13 million barrels of oil, Russian oil, since February 24th, according to Reuters, compared with nearly 16 million barrels for all of 2021. The Asian country is the world's 3rd biggest oil importer, importing 80% of its oil needs. The Newswire reported on February 25th that India was exploring setting up rupee trade accounts with Russia to be able to continue trading with the country and avert Western sanctions. Bloomberg reported on Thursday that Russia is offering India huge discounts to directly purchase oil at pre-war prices. Moscow is willing to set up oil to $35 a barrel I think the last I saw, I don't know what it is right now, but it was like at 125 here in the United States, which could increase to $45 per barrel as fossil fuel prices continue to skyrocket, and wants India to buy 15 million barrels in the first deal. In a session with journalists after the meeting, Singh warned against India continuing to import products from Russia since Putin invaded Ukraine. What we would not like to see is a rapid acceleration of India's imports from Russia as it relates to energy or any other exports that are currently being prohibited by the United States or by other aspects of the international sanctions regime. I come here in a spirit of friendship to explain the mechanisms of our sanctions, the importance of joining us to express shared resolve and to advance shared interests. And yes, there are consequences to countries that actively attempt to circumvent or backfill these sanctions. Noting that India and Russia are looking to get around the sanctions using their own payment system, he said, "We are very keen for all countries, especially our allies and partners, not to create mechanisms that prop up the ruble and that attempt to undermine the dollar based financial system." Singh declined to go into specifics about what those consequences might be. Well, I mean, shit, now we're just going and seizing private property. So, I mean, what's to stop you from just setting up shop in Modi's house? The Fed is to hike rates higher than the market expected. Oh my gosh, I'm already at 17 minutes. I've got so much to tell you guys. Okay. The head of the largest US bank said markets are underestimating the speed by which he expects the Federal Reserve to raise interest rates. In a letter to shareholders on Monday, JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon added that the short-term borrowing costs need to be substantially higher to address the rapid price increases. The Fed itself is projecting 7 total rate hikes through the end of this year, to a target rate between 1.75% and 2%. Fed funds futures markets are pricing in odds of a more aggressive Fed to target a rate between 2.5 and 2.75%. The nation's top banks stand to benefit from higher interest rates. Although JP Morgan Chase and the other large banks have managed strong profits despite rock bottom interest rates, higher rates would allow banks to expand margins on their lending products, business loans, mortgages, credit cards, etc. In January, when the Fed was telegraphing fewer rate hikes than they are now, Dimon was similarly telegraphing he could see the central bank moving faster than expected. I'm telling you guys, it's going to be really, really rough as this transitions. Kamala Harris, Deputy Chief of Staff, is to depart. Fuchs, who has served as foreign policy advisor to former Bill Clinton and worked in senior roles at the U.S. State Department under former President Barack Obama's administration, advised Harris, I'm so sorry, guys, on domestic and international issues, helped manage staff, and often accompanied her on foreign trips. Fuchs's announcement follows a series of exits from Harris's team. On March 21st, Harris's national security advisor, Nancy McEldowney, said she's stepping down from her role. The White House said she will be succeeded by her deputy, Philip Gordon. Harris's communications team, which has had a turbulent first year marked by several messaging failures, has also had several high-profile departures. Harris is also hiring a new chief speechwriter, Megan Grube. She most recently worked as an editorial director at Gates Ventures, where she was a speechwriter to Bill Gates, according to a separate memo sent to staff by Reuters. She was previously a senior speechwriter in the Obama administration. I can't imagine why Kamala Harris would need a new speechwriter with riveting talks like, "The governor and I were all doing a tour of the library here and talking about the significance of the passage of time," right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there's a great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs. And there's such a great significance to the passage of time when we think about a day in the life of our children and what that means to the future of our nation, depending on whether or not they have the resources they need to achieve their God-given talent. That is one of the greatest. It's going to be right next to Kennedy, Jefferson, So remarkable. Last thing, Elon Musk became the largest shareholder of Twitter yesterday, setting the platform up for a potential political showdown over its efforts to limit harmful content. The firebrand Tesla chief executive has indicated that he sees a hastening towards censorship. His surprise investment, which comes days after questioning the company's commitment to free speech and suggesting he might start his own social media platform, sent Twitter stock soaring. While it was not immediately clear what role Musk will play, analysts speculated he may try for an activist restructuring that could change the way Twitter polices its platform as well as who it banishes. Some inside Twitter worry that Musk may push Twitter in a libertarian direction, away from blocking or restricting accounts that cause social harm, according to people familiar with internal conversations who spoke on the condition of anonymity to describe sensitive matters. Some Twitter employees and experts fear Musk's involvement could also push the company further into chaos after years of investor activism and the sudden departure of former chief executive Jack Dorsey. The company is already at a critical juncture ahead of the 2022 midterm elections that will determine control of Congress, when it will have to police related misinformation that could help sway votes. Imagine a free society with a free platform to say what they think and what they feel, and citizens being responsible for making educated and logical decisions without the interference of an algorithm or individuals who have an agenda on the other side. Many have already come out and announced their departures because they are afraid that too many people will be able to speak freely. Imagine that. That is your Tuesday edition of Everything Yesterday This Morning. I'm sorry it went so long, but I had to really talk about the whole oligarch thing because it's bullshit. I love you guys. You take care and have a great day.